All right. Hi, everyone. It looks like we're live now, so I'll just wait for my colleague Danielle to join us. If we haven't met, my name is Jill Eddy, and I'm a career educator at SFU, and just really excited to be here with you guys today with Danielle. We're going to be doing a there's Danielle here. Let me just let her in here. All right. So, yeah, we're going to be doing a session on work search.
Hi,
And
everyone.
hi.
Hello.
All right, it looks like lots of people are joining us. So thanks for coming out today. We're excited to be here with you guys.
So we're going to try today in the next 30 minutes to give you as many practical and resourceful tips as we can. We know this is a really hard time and that students and recent grads are struggling and worried. And so we've tried to come up with as much that's really tangible and practical next steps for you to take. And of course, we're here to answer your questions and really looking forward to it.
Yeah, all right.
So without further ado, Jill, do you want to tell us about yourself?
All right, sure. So I'm Jill Eddy, and I've been a career educator for almost coming up to a decade now. And part along the side, I actually teach a course all about kind of future work search trends and job search.
Thank you. And I'm Danielle. I have my master's in career development, which I got at a university in Seattle, where I lived for a short time. I'm from Vancouver. And I've also been trained in a Stanford-based methodology that brings the way designers think about products and services to thinking about career and your life. It's called design thinking. So we're both bringing different approaches and hope that we can help you as much as possible. Hi to everyone who's joining us.
Ah, great. So first want to begin today by a land acknowledgement. So just acknowledging that the land that we're working from today is the unceded territory of the Coast Salish people, including the territories of the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh nations.
And we just wanted to ask those of you here with us, what are you studying? And, you know, if you have any questions, start posting your questions in the question box. We're going to try and get to as many as we can.
Oh, somebody else studied
Oh,
design
I see, yes,
there.
the Cornish in Seattle.
Great. So, see a business student,
Computing
comp
science,
sci.
everything, criminology.
All right, good stuff.
Hi, so guys, great to have you guys. So, should we start with our first question? I see.
Yeah.
What jobs are out there for those of us without much experience? Summer
Okay.
jobs, I guess, and upcoming jobs.
Yeah. So first of all, I mean, when you look at the news, it all looks pretty dire, but um, there are jobs out there, maybe in kind of specific industries that maybe are growing, and also some industries that they're going to start opening up a little bit. So I just did a quick search today, even just to make sure that this is recent information. And right now, there's current job postings for things in remote tutoring, market research, logistics intern, marketing assistant, program assistant with the food bank, data entry. So these are all great jobs for students. And the good thing is lots of these are actually remote. And a really cool success story I just want to share is I had a student email me yesterday and said, well, she was initially applying at McDonald's and she hadn't even heard back from McDonald's. And we talked about that she spoke a few different languages and she was an economics major. And I said, why don't you look into tutoring? And she messaged me yesterday saying that she already has 2 tutoring interviews lined up. So it's great to hear. So a big trick though is when you're looking at these searches, don't just search for job titles that you're comfortable with. So make sure you keep it broad, like things like summer student or student jobs, and you're going to find way more opportunities that you would have never even thought of. Also, another great thing is that BC restaurants, cafes, and pubs will start reopening as of mid-May under social distancing rules, but so that's good. But just also make sure that you check in with their safety plan and everything. Something else that's coming up too is the government has announced $9 billion of funding, including something called the Student Services Grant. And they're going to have a new website portal called I Want to Help, where there's going to be volunteer postings, volunteer opportunities posted. But students will be eligible possibly for $1,000 to $5,000 towards their fall tuition. So stay posted. We'll share that as soon as that's out.
That's great. And then just today, we've posted it on our Career 2020 on the Career Services site. The link is in the bio. The federal government, Canadian government, has just posted a new site for jobs and career options in the time of COVID. So definitely look in our bio, go to our page, and that link is up. And they've broken it down quite well as far as different sectors and how to actually find jobs that are posted on that site. The other thing that when we were talking about how to help students right now find work, and that is really kind of starting to think outside the box about what people need right now. What are people complaining about or saying, I wish there was and maybe that's a problem that you can solve. For instance, when I first started going to the grocery store, I was thinking, well, I don't have time right this, but it would be so nice if somebody showed up and said that they would set up a food growing garden in my backyard. So you could do that. There's virtual babysitting.
Yeah.
There are offering to do errands for people, mowing lawns, painting their deck, dog walking, any way that you can solve a problem. You could post ad up on a neighborhood listserv or Facebook Marketplace, Craigslist, Facebook groups, and just say, list everything that you can do and say you're available. And sometimes people in neighborhoods are more likely to reach out to somebody that they know or who's close by. So just kind of start stepping outside the box and thinking about who needs you and how you might be able to offer your service.
Yeah.
So I see another question here. So many great questions. How do I stand out when I'm applying for jobs? Jill, how would you answer that?
Yeah. So, it's definitely not your typical job search. So right now you're going to have to really do some things to stand out, especially if you're applying online. And we'll show you some alternatives to that later. But if you are in a position where there is a job online you want to apply for, try to think of how you can be creative with it or do something that will make your resume stand out. So when I actually applied for career services, I was so freaked out because it was like my dream job that came up. And what I did was actually, because career services, they were really into this book called Johnny Bunko, which was kind of in the style of Japanese manga animation. So I actually created a resume and kind of a little story of my life and my experiences in the style of a Japanese animation. So, thinking about something like that, that could just be kind of fun and just help yourself get seen. Another thing, because not all fields are, that's going to be suitable for, but definitely make sure that you have a really standout resume in terms of the look of it as well as the content. So a really simple trick lots of people miss is just having a nicely designed resume. And even if you're not a designer, and I'm not, you can use tools like Canva to create like a really slick looking resume. But also use that really nice resume for when you're actually getting it to a human. But if you are applying online, and especially to big companies that might have applicant tracking systems, make sure you have a really plain text kind of resume that will, so the applicant tracking system can see all your content.
Yeah, so just to explain a little bit more for those of you who don't know or have never heard of ATS, or an applicant's tracking system, these are automated systems used by companies to look at the job posting and look at resumes and try and match keywords as much as possible in filtering through. So it's really important in that resume that you make sure you actually get to a human being past the tracking system. So there's all kinds of techniques around that. And we would encourage you to come see us for an individual appointment if you want some really focused attention on your resume. But just in general, there's a really great site called jobscan.co, not com, jobscan.co. And it offers 5 free per month, where you can input your resume. You cut and paste your resume, cut and paste your job posting, and then do a scan, and you'll get 5 free per month. And it'll do a scan of your resume, compare it to your job posting, and kind of give you a rating. And it'll give you lots of comments about some of your statements, what keywords were mentioned quite often in the job posting that are not on your resume. And then you can tweak your resume accordingly to make it as effective as possible. JobScan also has some great templates for ATS resumes, as well as lots of great advice. So I'd really encourage you to go to that site.
And Danielle, I know you have some good tips on how to stand out during the process as well, right?
Right. So, you know, one is your resume, obviously, but as you're going through the job seeking process, what can you do to make yourself individual amongst many people who are doing the same thing as you? So I have a few different stories. One is my own. When I was looking for a job at one point, I saw an online posting. I applied online, but I also found the email address of the person. I did some research, found out who was going to be the person who would be my supervisor. I emailed her directly and attached my resume and cover letter. And she came back to me and said that she had already closed the posting and was in the midst, almost finished interviews. But she was so impressed that I had made that extra effort that she asked me to come for an interview. So I would really encourage you to step outside of the online application and reach out, if you can, to a human being. The other tip I have, sometimes a phone call can be great. So I know someone who works for a bagel company in Vancouver, and hadn't heard back with just applying online. So he called up, spoke with the owner, and the owner said, "I'm glad you called, because I only respond to people who actually pick up the phone and call me." So she was waiting to see who would distinguish themselves from just an online application. And my final tip is a student, an SFU student, who had applied for this job that she really wanted, hadn't heard anything, and she delivered her resume in person, which I know right now might be a little bit more sticky, but it's an idea to keep in mind. She hadn't heard anything.
Especially.
Yeah. And but she, within an hour of delivering her resume in person, she got an interview. So it's all these little things in the process that can make you stand out.
Yeah, definitely. And having been on the other side of the hiring table too, as someone hiring, I know, for example, a job that I was recruiting for, a designer role, we had 100 applicants, and guess how many actually followed up? One, a single person. Yeah, and they actually, it made me take a second look at their resumes. So it definitely works in your favor. Yeah. With that, though, I would say just follow up with a little bit of awareness about the situation right now, though, because everyone's going through different things. You never know if, what anyone's going through. Maybe they just lost their jobs themselves, or have, something going on. So, a really gentle follow-up, and just bring in your human skills as well. Say, I hope you and your family are doing well during this difficult time, or something like that. Okay, so Danielle, I'm seeing another question here. What is your advice for recent grads or students about to graduate? Actually, I got an idea. Why don't we make this really interesting? Why don't you put yourself in the shoes of a recent grad and let me know, what would you do?
What would I do?
Yeah.
So the first thing I would do is start looking at the jobs that I wanted, and looking, doing some research. looking at current job postings or past job postings, looking on LinkedIn at how people describe what they do, and really making, identifying where any skills gaps might be. Um, and then doing everything I needed to do to fill those gaps. Um, so, because especially in a competitive market, you want to be doing as close to the position that you're applying for as possible, so that even on your resume or on your LinkedIn, you can say that you can put that title and really legitimately own that you are in fact
Mhm.
doing that job already. So one of the ways you can gain these skills is available to you as an SFU student. It's so great. And that's LinkedIn Learning, which has lots of great online training of all kinds. And if you go to the link in the bio and you go to our Career 2020 page, we do have the information up of how you can access the LinkedIn Learning page as an SFU student. And it's totally free. So you can take
Mhm.
any course, skill up. Um, you know, and there's certifications as well, or certification of completion. So that's a really easy one for you to do right now. You could consider going to a boot camp, coding boot camp, for instance, or other kind of training. I don't know if those are happening right now, but even boot camps have scholarships, so it's worth looking on their different sites, and seeing. But yeah, so first thing I would do is build
Mhm.
my skills. What
Yeah.
about you?
And well, I actually want to add as well, I saw a little comment from somebody who was an international student and what that adds to it. So definitely, you know, in those situations, those are good ones just to come see us because those are sometimes a little bit of complexity there. And also International Services for Students has some great resources as well. So we'd love to come talk to you. Okay, so for me, I would actually look into my professional associations because that's been something I've seen so huge in the past. I used to do marketing for 10 years before going into this field. And the professional associations, what I noticed about them, there's tons of volunteer opportunities. It's a great way to meet people in your field without that kind of networking way that can feel kind of icky sometimes. And for introverts like myself, it's much easier for me to be working with someone than just, you know, these cold reach outs. And, you know, what I actually found was the people who were volunteering, especially the young professionals who were volunteering for these industry associations, they tended to get the best jobs because they were volunteering in these committees with all these senior level people. And you know, there's the saying of have people see you do things you're excellent at. And it's the whole idea of getting a chance to kind of shine and getting beyond that. How do you get a job without experience? How do you get experience without a job conundrum? By kind of bypassing all that and just getting this chance to kind of work alongside all those kind of senior professionals. Um, it's probably worth talking a little bit about building connections as well because that's something definitely I know you and I have discussed is something so important and I know is really intimidating for students. So one thing I would share is, you know, again, as kind of a self-identified kind of introvert, one thing that has worked in the past for me is information interviews as well. So you know, people call them all sorts of different things, coffee chats. But what they are is just meeting someone in your field who's possibly doing the job that you're interested in. And I had a really great experience where, again, I was in a position where I just moved back from overseas, from London, didn't have any connections, still didn't have tons of experience. I looped back with my co-op coordinator, had a little chat with her. She introduced me to someone working in the environmental field, which I was trying to get into. And so I emailed that person and I was so scared. I can't even tell you. I'd never done it before. And I know some of you students are probably in that same boat. And just, you know, I think the key is just keep it really simple, keep it human. So I just kind of said, you know, this mutual connection. Marcia suggested I connect with you. You know, I've heard that you're doing lots of cool work in the environmental field. I'd love to have a chat and learn about your career and maybe get some tips on my next steps. So again, it can be really simple. But I would say when I did that, it actually created this whole landslide of things that I didn't even know would be possible. So she actually connected with me a couple weeks later and said, I'm actually leaving my job. Do you want to
Oh,
apply? Yeah, like, sure. So
wow.
she said, send me your resume. I'll forward it to our hiring manager. And so she did. Their company was set up with an internal referral. So if anyone gets hired, that employee gets $1,000. And some other companies are like that. So um, then I had an interview with HR, managed to kind of get through it because I understood the company culture from talking to her. Then I had a super scary interview with a group of about 5 senior executives. And I somehow nailed it
Wow.
but only because I understood the company so well from chatting with her. Otherwise, it probably wouldn't have gone so well. But it just goes to show that not only is it the connection, but it's also the research that you get from chatting with these people. And to be honest, even if I didn't get that job, I'd still be in a way better position to get a job in that field because I understood specific projects that I'd be working on, what problems are, and I could come to the table saying how I could answer those.
Yeah, and I think that's a really good point, Jill, about that reaching out to people isn't always a direct line to a job. It
No.
might be,
Mm-hmm.
and I have a great story too, like that, where, a job comes out of this. But I have a student that I worked with who reached out to somebody. She reached out to an SFU alum, and there are ways of doing that on LinkedIn, which we'll refer to later. And it was the fourth person down the line. So that person referred her, the next
Wow.
person, and it was the fourth person who actually had a job proposal for her, who told her about something, posted it, and she got her job. And I know another student who reached out to somebody for an information interview, and he took him on as a mentor, and he gave him all kinds of feedback about his demo reel. He was in the film industry, and
Oh,
he
cool.
didn't actually have work for him,
Yeah.
but he was a mentor. So we never know uh, what this network is going to lead to. At the very least, you are building a group of interesting people in your field who are posed to help you and with whom you can discuss something that really
Mm-hmm.
interests you. And at the best, it will either immediately or down the road, maybe sometimes a year or so, lead you to work. I have a great story about a student who was a bit scared. And that's not, I think probably Jill and I talk about this a lot. This is the most common place we find ourselves with students. And I will say everybody at every age, pretty terrified to reach out to people. It's not an unusual experience.
Mm-hmm.
So you're not alone if you feel that. So it's trying to find ways that work with your personality that will allow you to do that, because it really is so key to moving forward in your career. Anyway, so this student was very nervous. I had him come up with his top 5 to 10 companies or organizations that he wanted to work in, and he was
Mm-hmm.
he was very clear, but he didn't have much experience in this field about what he wanted to do. So he reached out to these different companies. He ended up going for an information interview with the head of his dream company. He
Oh,
wanted to be a videographer, in corporate video, and went for the information interview. She provided him with lots of information. He kept on going. 4 months later, she emailed him and said she was posting a job, and she thought he should apply. And he's now
wow.
working for his dream company. So this is evidence of what we say of how incredibly helpful this is. But I would say for me, because I'm sort of an ambivert, it's not,
Mm-hmm.
and I hate the idea of sort of the idea of networking as in having to sell yourself. So I
Yeah.
completely empathize with anyone who feels that way, and I try and look at it like asking for directions from people who are in the field, right? Just being really real and saying that you're looking for advice and insight as to what it's like to work in this field, what advice someone might have for you as to what to do, what skills you may need. And just think of it as if you were walking down the street and someone came to you and asked you for directions. you would probably help them, and you might walk down the street with them, and you'd probably feel really good um, knowing that you'd helped someone find their way. And so when you're feeling scared about reaching out to someone, think that that's probably what
Mhm.
someone else is going to feel, in particular with students and people who are starting their careers.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
And yeah, and I know you and I are always trying to be really practical. So how would students start? Especially
Yes.
when we're telling them go on LinkedIn, like it's like that's a whole new world for some people.
Right. So well, one of the things we say is try and be as natural as possible. And I would really, advise you to come see us individually, because we
Yeah.
only have 30 minutes here, that we can really work with you to help you find a way to express. But even something simple like, I'm really interested in your field, or I love the article that you wrote on LinkedIn and I'd love to know more. Could I take you for a 15-minute virtual coffee and just ask for some advice and insight into the field and
Mhm.
what my next best steps might be? And you can be really real, and the chances are that if you are make it really personal with somebody, that they will respond in kind. And that can be a LinkedIn note. I would advise both LinkedIn and email,
Mhm.
and that you just be really authentic.
Yeah. And other people have asked about job search sites as well. And I know we've got tons of LinkedIn tools on our website. So we have a specific employment for summer 2020 webpage. So check out the link in the bio. It's all there. So many resources, everything that we've mentioned in this.
Including a course by these two guys called the LinkedIn guys, who used to work for LinkedIn, and they developed the alumni tool. It's a great course. It's
Mhm.
If you go to our site, you can sign in free, and it'll walk you through how to create a LinkedIn profile and how to really maximize LinkedIn for the purpose of reaching out to people for further
Yeah.
conversations.
Yeah. So yeah, and this has felt really quick, but we're actually coming to an end already.
Yeah,
So,
I know. Oh my goodness.
yeah.
I've seen such great comments. So, we've only touched the surface in our short time, but we've got more coming. We'll be back here for more Instagram lives to answer questions and give some really practical advice. We have our great website with a page that's very targeted. The link is in the Instagram
Bio.
bio right now.
Yeah.
And that's got, like we mentioned, all the different tools, courses, articles, job sites, including the federal government. What
Yeah.
else? What am I forgetting,
And
Jill?
then obviously we're actually building a Zoom community for students who are looking for work or recent grads, because we really want to kind of support you through every stage, kind of meeting you where you're at now and just helping you kind of move through this and move through it and to be in the best position as possible to keep on building your career. So watch out for that on our Instagram link. And yeah, we can't wait to be, spending more time with you guys.
And I see a question about how to reach us. So if the link in bio takes you to our website,
Mhm.
and then you can just go to the contact us page, and you'll see all the career educators, and you can email or phone to make an appointment with any one of us. And then
Yeah.
we can help you in more depth, because these are kind of little windows.
Yeah, we're still all available working virtually, whether it's how do I get money coming in right away? I just need a paying job of any kind, straight through to I'm graduating or I'm first year and I really want to make sure I put myself in a good position. Our message is always to really be thinking about your career as early in your university experience as possible. So, you know, even if you're first year, second year, start thinking about how you can kind of intentionally do some of these things. And even if you don't know exactly what direction you want to go, just come and chat with us. And we've got all sorts of tools and ways to kind of support you and kind of gaining clarity on, how you can start doing some things that really excite you. Yeah.
Yeah, and we're hoping that we'll see you
Yeah.
soon, and that you'll book some appointments, go to our website. Oh, and the other thing, we are launching our own Instagram page at sfu.career, and
Yes.
it has gone live. So definitely look there for more information about events and upcoming,
Mm-hmm.
um, yeah, whatever we're doing.
Yeah. Yeah. So,
Any
yes.
other questions that we need to address?
Yes,
Oh,
and
how to join the Zoom community. That's going to be, just watch our
check
Instagram page
Instagram
and website. We'll
as
be
soon
giving you
after.
details about that. That's coming soon.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, I guess we'll sign off now. But thank you so much for joining us. It's so cool to see all of you here. We miss you so much, and we can't wait to hopefully see you more virtually soon. And take really good care.
And meet you one-on-one if you want to come see us.
Yes.
Bye,
Okay. Take
everyone.
care. Bye, everyone.